All the construction taking place around Lambeau Field is just a sign of the times. Because inside Packer headquarters, top brass is hard at work building the 2021 Green Bay Packers. Coaching changes, restructured contracts, and veteran signings are leading up to the most important part of roster construction, the NFL Draft. Coming up, a visit with the chief architect, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst. We'll also welcome back Showtime, and you'll hear from the new coordinators, Joe Barry and Maurice Drayton. The off-season edition of Total Packers, presented by Chevrolet, starts right now. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Total Packers off-season report, presented by Chevrolet, the official vehicle of the Green Bay Packers. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more. And as promised, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst joins us now. Welcome, Brian. And Brian, just taking your off-season to date as a whole, my read on it is this. You like your roster. It's won a boatload of games, and you'd like to keep it intact as much as possible. Is that an accurate read?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously I feel very good about our football team. I think obviously the last few years we've been very, very competitive. I think as we went into a very challenging, unique offseason with the salary cap and some of the situations that the pandemic has created, I think to be able to bring back the guys that we were able to bring back that have performed so well for us in the past, we feel really good about that.
Brian, there was a lot of speculation that you may move on from Kevin King. You chose to re-sign him. Could you talk about that call?
This was a unique year with, I think, the market with the cap going down. And I think there was a lot of really good players out there that we normally wouldn't have expected to have a chance to re-sign, and Kevin was one of those. So we're really excited to get him back. Obviously, he's struggled at times staying on the field, but when he's been out there, he's been a really good player for us. So we're excited to have him back, and along with a bunch of other guys.
Every draft seems to have its own personality. Could you give us a couple, three position groups where this draft is strong in?
I think it's a good overall offensive line group. Corner, I think it has some strength. But everything overall, I think, is pretty good at the top. The ability of guys to opt back into college, I think our undrafted free agents and the volume of players that we're actually looking at is probably smaller than it has been in the past. But I think it's a good overall draft, and I think we'll be able to add to our football team for sure.
David Bakhtiari injured, Corey Linsley leaving in free agency. How comfortable going into the draft are you with your offensive line?
Yeah, I like our group. Obviously, David's injury, we'll see how that goes and when he's available to come back, because he's such a big part of what we do. Losing Corey, that's a tough one for all of us around here, just because not only the player, but the person as well. He was such a class act and such a good player for us. But we do wish him well. I do think we have some young players that are ready for the opportunity that this will present. And I don't think we'll probably done adding to that group as well.
Got 10 picks. Do you consider yourself armed and dangerous for this one?
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be able to move around the board a little bit to get the players we want. Obviously, when you have the kind of season we had last year, you're picking at the bottom of every round, which is obviously makes it a little more difficult. But with the added picks, I think if there's a player that we can go up and we need to go up to get, we'll be able to do it.
No combine, just pro days. How has that affected the evaluation process?
Yeah, obviously seeing players live is a big part of what we do. And at the combine, I think there's only about 20 or 25 players every year that aren't drafted, that are drafted that aren't in the combine. So I think without that this year, we've had to do a little bit more work just getting out there and seeing players on their campuses and stuff, which is something I'd like to do anyway. And it's been really good to be out on the road.
Thanks for the time, Brian. Best of luck going forward.
Thanks, Larry.
All right. Coming up, we'll go one-on-one with Aaron Jones. Don't go away. Will you individually, Aaron, splurge on anything?
No, sir. I actually drove up here in the same car I've been driving since high school. It has over 214,000 miles on it. No splurging for me, just work.
Up the middle to the end zone, to a dagger of a touchdown, Aaron Jones.
Total Packers is brought to you by Quick Trip and by your local Chevy dealer.
It's hard for me to stop thinking about football because that's my passion and joy.
Hands it off Aaron Jones.
It's been my passion and joy ever since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Up the middle, end zone, touchdown!
No, you can never be content. You can never be happy. You got to keep grinding because somebody wants your spot. So you got to keep working.
He's got a chance to the 10 to the 5 to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown! Aaron Jones!
As a former lineman, I do not say this lightly, but a back like Aaron Jones can do more for a line than a line can do for him. Case in point, a variation of a play called split zone. David Bakhtiari blocking out. Elton Jenkins blocking out. Corey Lindsley will wind up on this linebacker. Billy Turner on the defensive tackle, and Rick Wagner on that linebacker. You can see all that line action heading in this direction. Meanwhile, Dominique Gaffney goes across the formation against the grain to kick out on the end man of the line of scrimmage, thereby splitting the defense. Snap the ball, and you can see it start to develop. All the line action in this direction, Dominique coming back the other way. That's just the way they drew it up. But as is sometimes the case, the Titans get paid too. And a play that is designed to go up the middle is going nowhere. Look at that wad of bodies. But watch Aaron Jones. He literally bounces off of Billy Turner and turns the inside play into an outside play. And players with that kind of ability inspire others to go above and beyond. Look at Alan Lazard. He's blocking one, and then he's going to block two. And part of his motivation is knowing full well Aaron is good enough to take full advantage. We just watched him turn a play that was destined to lose a yard or two into a 59-yard gain, his 4th longest run of the season. I don't know if it's speed, vision, instincts, doesn't matter. All I know is it's very, very special.
It's funny, my mom had been telling me the whole time, don't worry, you're going to be back in Green Bay. So I got on the call and I told her, and she's like, I told you so. So I always say moms know best. It's just a blessing that we get to stay here.
Snap, Rodgers swings it left side. He's got a touchdown to Aaron Jones, the touchdown maker.
Aaron, congratulations on your new contract. Through the process, it looked like it was important to you to stay in Green Bay. Why was that?
Green Bay is home for me. They gave me my opportunity to become the player and showcase the player I am. And the scheme, the coaches, the players here in the locker room, everything about it. I love it. It's home, the community, the fans. So this is where I wanted to be.
Aaron, your folks were busy serving the country, so you probably didn't grow up wealthy. What's it like to be pretty comfortable financially now?
It's a true blessing, you know, working for this for 21 years and being able to take care of my family for forever is something that's very special to me. That's big for me, and like I said, it's a blessing. Without God, none of this is possible, so thank you.
Will you individually, Aaron, splurge on anything?
No, sir. I actually drove up here in the same car I've been driving since high school. I want to say 2011, me and my brother used to share it. Ford Explorer 2003 has over 214,000 miles on it. No splurging for me, just work.
Up the middle to the end zone, to a dagger of a touchdown, Aaron Jones.
Now you and Jamal Williams have been joined at the hip since the get-go back in 2017. What will it be like for you not to have him next to you every day in the running backs room?
It's going to be tough. It's definitely going to take some getting used to. I feel like I'm anticipating that first day. I just know it's going to feel so weird because I've had him next to me for 4 years every time I stepped in this building. I understand it's a business, though, and I'm happy for Jamal. I still get to see him 2 times a year, so I guess he still wanted to see my face. Couldn't get rid of me. No, I'm happy for him, and I know he'll make the most of any opportunity he gets because that's the kind of player he is.
Opportunity is knocking for A.J. Dillon to become running back number 2. Now, you saw him last season. Is the young man ready?
Yes, sir. The young man is ready. I've gotten a chance to work with him, see it for myself, and I truly believe he's ready.
And he's off to the races. He is gone. Touchdown.
Aaron, 4 of the 5 longest runs in your NFL career came last season. 77, 75, 60, and 59 yards. Now, when they all happen like that, with that kind of regularity, it's not an accident, it's not a coincidence. Something is going on. What is going on?
I think it's just all 11 of us being on the same page, you know. You always hear me say it starts up front. The big guys getting after it along with the tight ends, receivers, those guys getting in doing the dirty work, who don't get enough credit for what they do. You know, it could be A-Rod taking us from one play to another where he sees a look and he's getting us to the right look. And so it could just be a number of things, but it's at the end of the day, I think it's all 11 being on the same page.
Here are the numbers that blow me away. In the history of the league, there's just 2 players that have gained 3,000 plus yards rushing and scored 35 plus touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and averaged 5 or more a carry in their first 4 seasons. One is Jim Brown, the Hall of Famer. You've heard of him, haven't you?
Definitely have heard of him.
And the other is a fellow by the name of Aaron Jones. And Aaron, what do you do for an encore? When you've done that in your first 4 seasons, what are your hopes, dreams, and aspirations moving forward now?
To continue to get better. I feel like I've been playing a little bit off a raw ability and just time to continue to grind, get with the right people, and elevate and take your game to the next level. That's great company to be in, but I want to be number 1, if that makes sense. And if you're not trying to be the best or number 1, then what are you playing the sport for?
We are now joined by my esteemed colleagues from Packers.com, Mike Spofford and Wes Hotkowitz. You would never know it by their camera presence, but these gentlemen's first love is writing. And consequently, I have to ask, guys, what is your top headline in the offseason so far? Mike, take it away.
Well, I say it's re-signing running back Aaron Jones, keeping him in the fold here in Green Bay. If he had hit the open market, he would have been one of the top free agents, not just at his position, but in the entire league. His skill set, what he does in the run and the pass, extremely valuable to Matt LaFleur's offense. I think it was huge that the Packers were able to keep number 33 in Green Bay.
Wes, what was your top headline? And if you could, give us something else other than Aaron Jones signing.
Well, it does go off of what Aaron Jones said earlier this offseason. Run it back. The Green Bay Packers, they feel really confident about the team that they returned from last season and made sure to try to bring back as many of those parts and pieces as possible and see improvement from within. Kevin King returning, Mercedes Lewis. You do lose Corey Linsley, but the overall depth of this team is what really stands out to me. The Green Bay Packers feel like they're close, and they want to be able to take that next step now in 2021.
Well, guys, you know the Packer defense wasn't bad last season. As a matter of fact, at times it was pretty darn good. But Matt LaFleur decided for it to take the next step, it had to get better. And that brings us to new Packers defensive coordinator, Joe Barry.
The foundation has been set here, an incredible foundation.
Intercepted in the deep middle.
When you have pieces in place, when you have an MVP at quarterback, I think that's awesome.
Oh, what a play!
Barry brings experience with a variety of fronts to Green Bay, but he'll keep the 3-4 as the Packers' base defense. Of course, just like most of the NFL, the Packers will be in some sort of sub-package the far majority of the time.
You know, you better have pass rushers and you better have really good DBs. And specifically that nickel position, that star position, I think it's vital.
Chandon Sullivan filled that role capably last season, but considering its importance in Barry's system, might Jair Alexander be a better alternative? Barry says maybe, and maybe not.
Just because a guy is a great corner outside, you put him inside at that nickel position, at that star position, it's a completely different world.
Who plays where will sort itself out as Barry gets more familiar with the Packers personnel. But he's already noticed that in Chris Barnes, the Packers had an undrafted rookie starting at inside linebacker.
There we go. Davis, and down he goes. The rookie Chris Barnes.
That's not supposed to happen. But as a longtime linebackers coach, Barry knows why it did.
Good linebackers, they're given with instincts. They're given awareness. That's not coached. You can't coach awareness. You can't coach instincts.
That's 20 years of NFL experience talking, and Barry's last post was assistant head and linebackers coach for the LA Rams. Their defense was considered cutting edge, and it led the league in both yardage and points allowed. Barry knows it inside and out, and that certainly includes how its foundation was laid.
I'll promise you the guys will tackle. I promise you they'll get off blocks. I promise you we're going to do everything humanly possible to go take the ball away, okay, and get it back in number 12's hands, and we're going to play fast and furious.
And we are back with Mike and Wes. And Mike, besides being fast and furious, what kind of changes are you expecting in the Packers defense under Joe Barry?
Well, we've heard Matt LaFleur mention that he'd like to see the Packers defense have a more aggressive mentality. So I'm curious to see what that means in terms of creativity that Joe Barry might employ in terms of how he uses certain players. Does Rashawn Gary get used a little differently in the defensive front? Or Darnell Savage or Jair Alexander get used in some different ways in the nickel, dime, sub packages, that kind of thing. I'm curious to see how that evolves.
Wes, I'm thinking Matt LaFleur, as much as anything, is looking for a defense that plays more consistently with its hair on fire. What say you?
Yeah, I agree with you, Larry. And one thing I really like about Barry and his history is he is a developer of the linebacker position. And when you talk about playing on fire, that's a lot of times where that starts, especially in this Packers defense with Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, a player that Barry's already worked with. I'm excited to see the packages he comes up with, being able to dial up the pressure to make life easier on the back end. There's a lot of potential with this Packers defense, and Barry, Packers feel, is the right guy to get the most out of it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Coming up, we'll put the spotlight on the Packers' new special teams coordinator, Maurice Drayton. Stay with us.
Here's the snap. Placement made. Swing of the right leg. Kick to the uprights. It is good! Wow. Mason Crosby, 57 yards.
Total Packers is brought to you by your local Chevy dealer and by Quick Trip. When the Packers finished 29th in special teams last season, Matt LaFleur decided not to blow the whole thing up. Instead, he promoted Maurice Drayton from assistant to special teams coordinator. Here's why.
He is a teacher. He's an excellent communicator. Again, brings great energy to that room, and that's really what I thought was needed.
Drayton's background is in education, so the teaching piece comes quite naturally. And he knows when it comes to pupils, one size does not fit all.
Learners learn many different ways, and we teach to the learner, not to the group.
That individual approach also shows up in Drayton's prowess as a communicator. Teaching a player what to do is one thing. Knowing what motivates him to do it, quite another.
We all we got, and we all we need. If those guys understand where I'm coming from, if they understand that I understand their why, and I'm going to help them achieve their why, they're going to be excited about it because we're helping them reach their goals.
Coach LaFleur also mentioned Drayton's, quote, great energy, and he wasn't referring to the rah-rah superficial stuff. He was talking about the genuine kind, the kind it takes to create a presence and lead a room.
1, 2, 3. It's real energy, and guys can feed off of real energy once you invest in them.
The Packers haven't had a top 10 special teams operation since '07, and they usually don't award roster spots based solely on that phase of the game. Drayton will answer with an emphasis on technique and fundamentals, schemes based on playing the percentages, and more than anything, getting the absolute most out of whoever he has to work with.
My whole life I've done more with less, okay? I promise you this, we'll get every athletic ability out of the individuals that step on the field for us.
We all we got, we all we need. Back with Mike and Wes. And Mike, do you think the Packers will finally get their special teams straightened out?
Well, they're certainly going to try, Larry, and it may not be as hard as everybody seems to think it is. The big returns that were allowed last year, those are fundamental issues, and Mo Drayton knows all about them. Brian Gutekunst has talked about acquiring a dynamic returner to put back there to help the field position situation on that end of things. The one thing you don't want to change, the penalties. The last couple years, the Packers kept their penalties down on special teams. You want to stay that way.
Okay, Wes, put on your GM hat. Who are the Packers going to draft in the first round?
Larry, for me, I have my eye on the offensive line. Now, that's a position they lost an all-pro center in Corey Linsley. You're not sure what's going to happen here with David Bakhtiari and his rehab. They have a lot of versatility, though. Elton Jenkins, Lucas Patrick, Billy Turner, they all can play multiple positions. So if I'm Brian Gutekunst, the best offensive lineman on the board, you bring them into the system, let them work with those guys. I feel like that's a position where you can really find a nice hitter in this draft.
I say draft defense. Matt LaFleur can figure out a way to move the ball on anybody. At any rate, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.